Dedicated Lili Nishmas, the Baron Yankiv Bre Mordechai Elio Schwei. And this is a story which I personally heard from Rabbi Schwei Olav Shalom. I was fortunate to participate at a Farbrengen where mostly the participants were Streimlach Yidden, and Rabbi Schwei was present as well. And during the Farbrengen, especially during the songs, I gently leaned over and I asked Rabbi Schwei in Yiddish, Efshe kente der Zeil na Meise. And he said, Efshe später. He wasn't really in the mood. He said, maybe a little later. And this continued a few times, as Chassidish Farbrengen goes. Somebody speaks for a while, and then there's a niggun, and so on, and with a l'chaim. And from time to time, I asked Rabbi Schwei, Efshe kente etwas sagen, Efshe kente sagen a Meise. Maybe he can say something, maybe he can tell a story. And finally, after a few times of asking, Rabbi Schwei said to me, Sing noch an Niggen und nach dem Niggen will ich etwas sagen. Sing one more song, and after that I will participate, I will say something. So we started a song and we sang. And when the song was over, Rabbi Schwei began to speak. From the moment he started, I knew this was going to be something highly emotional, because I took one look at his eyes and I can see they were welled up with tears, and his whole posture, his whole demeanor seemed like he was going through some highly emotional memory or something. I had no idea what he was about to say. And he began to tell the following. He told of his birth and how he was raised in a beautiful home, in a Chassidish home, and at a very young age of approximately 7 years old, unfortunately, Rahman al-Itzlan, he became an orphan. He lost his father. And they were 3 brothers. The oldest was the Baruch Shalom, and it was Rabbi Isaac from Montreal later, and then of course Rabbi Schwei from Crown Heights. In Yiddish, they called him Yankele as a child. So the mother, the Almana, Mrs. Bunya Schwei, who I vividly remember because she lived at the home of Rabbi Schwei on Montgomery Street. And whenever I would walk as a student in Oliteira to 417 Troy Avenue, coming from my parents' house on Montgomery Street, I would walk by, and very often she was sitting there in a wheelchair, and all I saw was this elderly lady wrapped in a blanket most of the time on the outside, breathing some fresh air. Little did I know that in this wheelchair, and behind this blanket lies such power, leadership, and tenacity. And Rabbi Schwei continued, and he said after his father's passing, his mother took it upon herself to make sure that her 3 children will receive a Chassidish education, a Chassidish chinuch. And she escaped from Finland, and she arrived to Uzbekistan, which is sandwiched between Russia and Kazakhstan, if you know the geography. And there she found herself in the city of Tashkent, which is the capital city of Uzbekistan. A city which I was fortunate to see a number of times, and is a city that had a tremendous amount of Chabad Lubavitch shuls, especially during the times of World War II, when a lot of Hasidim escaped to Uzbekistan and in that region, and many ran to Tashkent and many to Samarkand. And therefore, in that time, Tashkent, which was the capital city and still is, was populated by many Lubavitchers. And I guess she figured that if she goes there, from there she will figure out how to continue. What is she going to do now with 3 very young orphans, Yisemim, of the ages of 7 approximately, and 9 or 10. And I believe he said the third one, the oldest, was close to 11 and a half, 12. But in any case, perhaps there's a detail here that I don't remember exactly, but more or less these were the details. And while she was walking one day in the street in Tashkent, she noticed from a distance a chassid. She recognized him. The chassid was Harav Mishulavin. And Rabbi Mishulovin came to collect money for the yeshiva that Temchet Mimim had underground in the city of Samarkand, which is approximately a 3 to 4 hour drive or train ride. They're more or less the same. A city that is filled with lots of Mesiras Nefesh. Many great Chassidim lived there. Unfortunately, many great Chassidim passed away there. I personally have a great grandfather, Rabbi Tzion Gaisinski, who was the Sheikhet for the Rebbe's parents, Rabbi Levi Yitzchak and the Rebbe Tzimchana, and the Rebbe Tzimchana mentions that in her Zechrenis, in her Rishimis. And he's buried there, Menachasi Kavod is over there, and many other Chassidim, Rabbi David Haradaker, Rabbi Yossel Aronov's grandfather is there, the Shusterman's grandfather is there, there's the Rubashkin grandfather is there, and many other, unfortunately, Chassidim are there. My great-grandmother, unfortunately, fell out of a window, who was married to the person that I'm named after during her daughter's wedding, and she's married, and she's buried there. It's a city filled with Chassidish and Mesiras Nefesh. But above everything, it's a city where Chassidim persevered, and with absolute resilience, strength, perseverance, they continued even under the harshest situations of World War II and the danger of the Russian communists. They continued having the underground yeshiva to make sure that every Jewish child receives a Jewish education, not only a Yiddish chinuch, but a Chassidish chinuch. And she desperately wanted, Mrs. Bunya Schwei wanted that her 3 children, her 3 kindalach should receive a Chassidish chinuch. When she saw Rav Mishulovin from a distance, she quickly approached him, even though it was a little bit dangerous to do these things in the streets because you never knew if a KGB agent was watching you and realizing and noticing and taking note of what you're doing. And she cried to him and she said she's a young widow with 3 sons, and she's begging him, please, to take her oldest child back with him to Samarkand and make sure that he goes to the yeshiva there, because she desperately wants him to grow up via chassid, and she wants him to have a chassidish and chinuch, and she's begging him to take this boy who was under bar mitzvah. At first, Rabbi Mishulovin said, absolutely not. It's in the middle of the war. There's no food. Bochrim are starving. There's not enough food for everybody. It's dangerous. The whole yeshiva is done in secrecy, and if chas v'shalom they catch them, who knows what could happen, as unfortunately happened in many other situations, and we know that the outcome wasn't always a happy one. So it was absolute Mesiras Nefesh, and you're dealing here with a young kid who's under bar mitzvah. But she insisted, and she cried, and she begged, and Rabbi Mishulovin said, okay, I'm going to leave on this and this date, back to Samarkand, make sure your child is packed up. And of course, she made sure that Baruch Shalom, the young boy under bar mitzvah, traveled together with Rabbi Mishulovin back to Samarkand. And there he adjusted in the yeshiva to the best of his ability, obviously, in an underground setting where all was secrecy, and the Bukhara for the most part slept, or the students slept, on benches, some on the floor. They used their jackets or their coats as their pillows. It wasn't exactly a luxury hotel. A while later, the same Mrs. Schwei, Mrs. Bunya Schwei, was walking in the street again, and she sees that Rabbi Mishulovin is back in town again. And she understood that he keeps on coming back, obviously, because the yeshiva needs money. You have to feed the Bachrim and give the Malamdim money to be able to live. And there was no official way of doing this, so he had to come discreetly and collect money as a shadar for the yeshiva. Or maybe voluntarily. I'm not sure if he was an official shadar or just voluntarily, but either way, he was collecting money for Temchet Mimim. She approached him and she begged him to please take the second child. The second child was Rabbi Isaac from Montreal. At first, again, Rabbi Mishulovin said, absolutely not. It was bad enough that I took a risk and I took your older boy, but at least he was closer to bar mitzvah age, so I felt a little more comfortable. But this brother's a few years younger. Who's going to look out after these kids? There's no mother there. There's nobody that's going to take care of these kids. And it's dangerous. You want me to take the responsibility to take your child, and what's going to happen next? But she said to him that she knows of all of these dangers, but what good is it to have children that Rahman al-Islam don't have a Chassidish chinuch? She cried, and she succeeded. And Rabbi Mishulovin took the second boy with him back to Samarkand. Sure enough, a few weeks later, Mrs. Schwei was again in the streets of Tashkent, and she saw that Rabbi Mishulovin was here again, and she approached him, and Rabbi Mishulovin said to her, "I'm sorry, stop now. It was hard enough for what I did for you for the first two, but there's no way that I'm even thinking about. There's not a chance that I'm taking your third child who was approximately 7 years old. It is ridiculous, it is dangerous, and I am not participating in this." And he continued and he said, Mele, he said, the zweiter brother, the second brother, so I took him because I was relying that the older brother is going to share with him whatever space he arranged for himself for sleeping, he's going to share it with his younger brother, and whatever he's eating, he's going to share with his younger brother. So I felt that the older brother will look out for the younger brother who was a year or two younger than him. But to take a 7-year-old, he said, absolutely not. Mrs. Schwei didn't let go. Mrs. Schwei kept on nudging and nudging and begging and begging. She desperately wanted her children to grow up Chassidim. Eventually, Rabbi Mishulovin said, listen, under no circumstances am I going to do for you what I did with the first two children. I am not taking them. Especially, even just leaving the city of Tashkent, those train stations, which I had a chus to see, those train stations are gigantic. All over the place were undercover KGB agents. They were eyeing who's coming and going. The Vokzal, as it's known in Russian, or by the Stansia. And to be there under the eyes of KGB, he said, the 7-year-old boy may not even make it out in safety from the city. I'm not taking responsibility. So, but if you want, I'll tell you which train. You can bring the child to the train. You can hide him inside the train. I'm still not taking responsibility. Only when the train leaves and we're in safe territory will I go to the hiding place behind suitcases. I will take the child out, and then I will bring him to his two older brothers. Mrs. Bunya Schwei was delighted, and that's what she did. But when she came to her youngest son, Yankele, and she said to him, I have good news for you. You're going to join your older brothers in yeshiva. He started to cry. When Rabbi Schwei started telling this part of the story, I remember it vividly. This was more than 15 years ago. He was shaking. And somewhere in me, I felt a little bit that I was guilty because I obviously triggered all these emotions that he's reliving all over again. But I have to tell you, the crowd was beyond mesmerized. There wasn't an issue of storytelling. They were watching a chassid relive raw Mesiras Nefesh just the way it was. As the Rebbe often quotes, Dvarim hayetzim alev nechnasim alev, a rock would have melted. There were tears literally streaming down from his face, and he was choking up. Rabbi Schwei, he was telling the story, and I'm sitting next to him, and he's describing all of this. And finally, the mother says to the child, the Mama mir gesagt, Yankele Teire, ich sag dir zu, als ich will bald können kaufen ein Billett, und ich will kommen, treffen sich mit dir, sein mit dir in Samarkand. She said, my dear Yankele, I promise you, give me a little bit of time to arrange a train ticket. A train ticket in those days during war times was not like you go today into the train and you just purchase a ticket. Even that was a big to-do. She said, give me some time, I'll arrange whatever it takes. I'm not sure if she needed money or maybe to pack up whatever she had. I have no idea. But she said, give me a little bit of time and I will join you in Samarkand. Based on that promise, the little boy who was 7 years old, Yankele believed his mother, and he traveled to Samarkand by hiding inside the train, behind suitcases. Just try to imagine the scene, a 7-year-old little child hiding behind suitcases, and he obviously must have been told that it's secrecy, so he has to keep quiet. Nobody should notice him. KGB shouldn't notice, or anybody passing by on the train. And only when they left did Rabbi Mishulovin come and take him out of the hiding place. And of course, he brought him to his two older brothers, who took care of him the best that they were able to, and whatever circumstances they had, and whatever food and sleeping arrangements they had, they obviously shared with their younger brother. But in his heart, a 7-year-old child, Bengtzach zu Mamen, is yearning to see his mother. After a while, at a later occasion, I asked Rabbi Schwei how long. He says, I don't remember exactly how much time this was, but it was a shtickl Zeit. He didn't write down the dates. This wasn't a diary. It wasn't a very long time, but it wasn't a day or two. And Rabbi Schwei got used to being in the yeshiva, but in his heart, he couldn't take the pain. His father unfortunately passed away. His mother is no longer with him. She's stuck in Tashkent. So he was having a very hard time in yeshiva. Finally, Mr. Schwei was able to purchase a ticket and arrange whatever she needed. And she sets out on her journey, a young Jewish widow traveling from Tashkent in Uzbekistan to the city of Samarkand, where she had no idea where she was going. And not only that, when she arrives to Samarkand, what exactly is she supposed to do? She can't ask the first police officer, could you please give me directions? Where is the underground Lubavitch yeshiva? You can't raise any suspicion. Where are you going? So obviously, all that she was doing had to be done in a discreet manner and somehow to figure out where her children are. And it was an underground yeshiva, as we said. And she was thinking about this during the whole train ride. When she arrives to Samarkand, where do you go from here? Samarkand is not as big as Tashkent. It's a smaller city, but it's still a city. It's a very beautiful city, actually. And in the old city, where the Bukhara Yidden lived, where most of Anash, of Lubavitch Chassidim, moved into, the streets are narrow and small. It looks a little bit like the old city of Yerushalayim and the old city of Tzfas, except that it's nowhere close to being as pretty. It's old, and a lot of those stones in the road and mud, and the streets are broken up. It's not exactly a five-star high-luxury place to live in. Certainly not the old city of Samarkand. And as she gets off the train, she's schlepping her suitcase, whatever she has with her, and she's walking off the train on the train platform, which is a gigantic platform. It's not like it is in New York, where you have a narrow train platform from both sides. The Vokzal, the Stancia there is huge. And as she was walking, she suddenly hears the cry of a child screaming, Mama! Rabbi Schwei said it. I'm telling you, it's hard to give it over, just the way it was. There wasn't a pin drop in the room, and it was a large crowd, and he's crying, and by now already the crowd is experiencing the story as he's going along, and it rings in my ears that Mame that he screamed. It was like, wow! It was shocking. And he runs over to his mother, and he jumps on her. And after his mother realized that it's her son, she says to him, Rabbi Schwei says this loudly, by the Verbrengen, but he was choking on his tears. She says, Yankel is iskait, was tust du da inner allein? My dear Yankel, what are you doing here on this train station? A little boy by himself. So Rabbi Schwei continued and said, aber gesagt dem Mame nazei. Mame, du gedenkst, ich hab nicht gewollt fahren. You remember, mother, I did not want to travel on this journey. Aber du hast mir zugesagt, you promised me that you're going to hurry up and the fastest possible you're going to make sure that you too are going to join us in Samarkand. He said, jeden Tag nach Cheder, gehe ich zum Vokzal. Every day after Cheder I go to the train station and I wait. Maybe my mother was going to come on this train. So he says to his mother, I had no idea you're going to be on this train. But a little boy of 7 years old, his heart was plotzing. He was hoping, maybe this train, Mommy promised, I'm sure she's going to arrive soon. Maybe it's going to be this train. But he never had a doubt that Mommy is arriving. And Rabbi Schwei concluded and he said, why am I telling this to you guys? He said, I'm not saying this, I want to repeat to you my personal history. He said, weil der Rebbe hat uns zugesagt, dass hine Mashiach ba, Mashiach is about to come. Uns schon durchgelaufen, as viel Zeit, so much time has lapsed since the Rebbe made that promise, that the Yetzer Hara a little bit creeps into your mind and says, I don't understand. The Rebbe made a promise. What's going on? And I remember like Rabbi Schwei hammering the message. If my mom had gehalten the memes, if my mother told the truth, and I knew that I can rely on her 100%, Allah chaskama v'kama, the Rebbe of our generation, when the Rebbe makes a promise, and the Rebbe tells us that Mashiach is about to come now, we have no suffix, we have no doubt, and not even a svek that the Rebbe keeps his promise. As they say in Hebrew, a Rebbe yivtiach, a Rebbe yikayem. If the Rebbe promised, the Rebbe is going to keep his promise. Rabbi Schwei didn't use that phrase, obviously. And he said, "B'meila the Rebbe tun zugezagt, darf man zugreten Sachen wissen, as atat kommt Mashiach." And he finished, l'chaim, l'chaim, l'vracha. No need to elaborate. No extra words needed to say. But Zol der Eibishter geben, that in the schus of such amazing Mesiras Nefesh, that Yidden had to raise Achsidischen Deir, to give children Achsidischen Chinuch. And it continues until today to see how Anash with Mesiras Nefesh today continues to do every effort possible under these ridiculous circumstances to make sure as Kinder sollen haben Achsidischen Chinuch. May we all be zeicher to have good health, Arichas Yamim Mishanim Tevis, Gesundheit, Freilichkeit, Lebendigkeit, mit Tevanira Vanigla. And the most important part, we should get out of this bitter galus. Wenn es gesandt sich mit den Reben dolle Mathe, wo je galenu.